go.
Hey, how's it going? It's John from John Steele Consulting. And I wanted to welcome you to the first of a series of interviews that we're doing in our Funnel Vision series. So we are launching a series of videos tied to our Funnel Vision newsletter. And I know some of you may be familiar with Funnel Vision. It comes out every 2 weeks. And in it, we talk about everything, integrations, automation, and AI, anything marketing technology wise that we think can help startups and founders grow their businesses. And so we put it out every 2 weeks, and it sort of gives you an in-depth integration or workflow that you can implement at your company. And usually they are mostly no code. We try our best to make them as no code as possible. And we just think that they're a great way to help you sort of level the playing field, increase growth, do more with your technology stack. And so we wanted to launch a series of videos to sort of dive into those topics a little bit further. We're going to be talking to some founders and some marketers about their experience with some of these tools and integrations, how they're finding the current landscape, how they're dealing with AI, how they're dealing with a rapidly changing market, and sort of what they think are some solutions to making growth and work better for people in our community. So I'm really excited to have Josh today. Josh Mamroud is an old friend. We've been pals for a long time, and he runs Documint, which is a great app. PDF generator allows you to automate pretty much anything you'd want to put into a PDF. So invoices or reports or anything like that. I recently built a tool on it that I'm going to be releasing soon that sort of automates reporting and allows you to take form data and just build reports off of it immediately. And so I'm really excited to talk to him about a number of things, but I wanted to talk to him most of all because he recently left HubSpot. So he was a HubSpot partner for a really long time, and I actually helped him out with some customizations that he wanted to make there. He built an integration with HubSpot for his company, but he recently decided for Documint that they wanted to go in a different direction. And I wanted to get into his reasoning for that and how he sees the current moment as far as AI and as far as the world for founders and app developers, and sort of how all of that played into his decision to walk away from HubSpot. Obviously, changing CRMs is no small decision. As many of you may know, anybody who's replatformed or done anything like that knows there's a lot that goes into it. And so I think he's going to have a lot to tell us about his experience there and what he's seeing within HubSpot and with other platforms in the space that made him think it was a good time to depart. So I'm very excited to talk to him, and I hope you'll enjoy this conversation as well. Hey, Josh, how's it going?
Good, John. How you doing?
Good. Thanks for joining today. So I'm excited to talk to you, and I was really, excited to kick off this interview series with you because I know we had done some work together on HubSpot, and I had heard that you were planning on leaving HubSpot or you'd already left HubSpot. And I was hoping that, you could tell us a little bit about that. Obviously, I do a good deal of HubSpot consulting, and a lot of my clients are HubSpot users. So I think, a lot of folks would be interested in why, you guys chose to go a different direction. So can you
Sure.
start
Yeah,
out
let's
just by
talk about it.
telling me what drove that decision for you and sort of, you know, when you sort of made the decision to go and then what sort of led into that?
Yeah, sure. So, I think this has been kind of a long time, something that's been a long time coming. We were having some challenges with HubSpot pretty much since the beginning. As a CMS, it was great, getting our website in there. We tried a few different options before that. And let me back up a little bit. So still actually are using it as a CMS, a CRM, support chat, and, our messaging system, email messaging system.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, um, it was working for us for a while, but, we kept running into these roadblocks and then, trying to shoehorn our use case into what HubSpot comes with that as a box, right? So we're not an account-based marketing company. That's not our strategy for acquiring new business. Our average ticket sale is too small to justify that. We're more product-led growth. And so we were mainly using HubSpot for the email marketing, for the CMS, and for the support chat. And, we found that, we wanted We tried everything. Like we really wanted to stay with HubSpot and make it work. We didn't want to have to go through the whole process of migrating out of it, but
Yeah, it's a
it
big shift.
big time. Yeah. I mean, that's four of our systems right there inside of one platform. And so it was not an easy decision, but, we kind of just kept feeling the pressure of our prices kept going up. We kept having to pay for more marketing contacts just to be able to broadcast to our users. So we would have to really stay on top of making sure that we have a curated list of people that we want to communicate with or pay more to HubSpot. And it's not cheap to upgrade, at least for us. We're a startup,
Right.
so there was that, and then the CMS cost. We got a discount early on, and that discount was going away, and the price was increasing, and they're changing their pricing model, HubSpot, and it was just like kind of waves crashing on a beach. Like it kept hitting us, and then you know, before you know it, we're paying 2 grand a month, and we're just not getting that much in value out of HubSpot. And I'm sure it does
Mhm.
work great for a lot of companies, but for us, it just wasn't meeting our needs. And so we took a hard look at what we needed and decided that we didn't know which direction we were going yet, but we knew that we needed to get out of HubSpot.
So before you decided to leave, you mentioned that you had tried some things to hold on to it. So can you talk about some of the impactful customizations or integrations that you were utilizing before, and sort of how you sort of figured out updating this, customizing it isn't gonna work for our needs?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I don't think we're alone in this, but we kept trying to. What we really needed access to was custom objects, and we just couldn't find a plan
Mm,
that was affordable for us, that justified that expense. And I forget what the prices are now, and they kept changing their plans over time, and it seemed like this thing that we needed kept getting further away from us.
yeah.
And so, to try to work around that, we started creating a bunch of. We tried to use deals for something that they're not meant for.
Hmm.
Created tons of like custom properties, and uh, and just kept layering that on and
Right.
trying to find what did we have that we could kind of repurpose for what we needed. You helped us with a lot of things, and we were getting close, and I'm sure we could have gotten to something that you know technically would have checked the box, but it just, the further down the road we got with it,
Hmm.
the more it became clear that this is just not for us. Like we're trying to use the system for something that it's not designed to do. And if we try to get it to do, like if we try to, we have to pay a lot more to get it to work the way
Yeah,
that we wanted to.
absolutely. Can you
Yeah.
can you mention, and that's obviously the most common mark against HubSpot, I think, is the big gap between their plans and sort of how big of a financial outlay it can be when you just need to jump up for a few features. You mentioned custom objects. Can you talk for people who might not know about custom objects and what they sort of do for you within HubSpot and why they were so necessary for you?
Yeah. So, HubSpot has, talking about the CRM component of HubSpot specifically, they have three main entities, if you will. You have contacts, you have companies, and you have deals. And so, for a lot of B2C companies, that is perfect. That's what they want, right? They have their leads coming in, and a lead that gets to a certain stage that becomes an opportunity, and then you start working that opportunity. Maybe you assign it to a salesperson, and custom objects allow you to extend that functionality. So, instead of just being limited to those three, and I think there's more now. I think they have leads as an object, and they have quotes and line items and a few others. And so, but for our needs, we needed more than that. And HubSpot allows you to do that with something called custom objects. So instead of just being limited to those three main standard object types, what HubSpot calls objects, you could think of it as like almost like a table in Excel. Um, they allow you to create your own and define, what it's called, the properties that are in there, and then you can kind of shape it to meet your needs and do exactly what you want. And then you get the power of all of their automations. There's some restrictions, and I think they're working on improving that all the time, kind of making custom objects first class citizens in the way that the standard objects are. But that's, yeah, essentially what it just allows you to customize more of the CRM to meet your business requirements.
Yeah, and if you think about how many of the features are sort of tied to uh, those standard objects that you mentioned, so so many of the things you can do with it are sort of segmented and siloed by those objects. And so, yeah, if you have more customized needs, I can see where that would be an issue for you guys. So you obviously then had to go through sort of a vendor shopping process where you sort of had to start looking around for different platforms and sort of weigh them against each other, sort of look at the features, look at the pricing, all of that stuff. Um, how was that process for you guys? How did you sort of tackle that, and sort of what were the sort of must-haves that you guys were looking for? You don't have to give away all your secret sauce, but I mean, if you could just tell us a little bit about your process to finding a new CRM, and what features you sort of were looking for, and then what ones sort of like surprised you that, was sort of like, I didn't know that was available, but that's kind of a newer thing that we weren't seeing before.
Yeah, great question. So I would say, first we took a look at where does HubSpot work for us? We had a kind of a wish list of things that we wanted over time with HubSpot. Oh, I wish we could do this. I wish we could do this. So it wasn't too hard once we started going looking for a new CRM to put that list of requirements together. And it really came down to, what do we like about HubSpot and what don't we like about HubSpot? HubSpot has a lot of again, I think if we were a different type of business, then, a lot of their features that they're designed, it's designed for those types of business, and we're a SaaS trying to shoehorn this
Hmm.
CRM into our needs. And so, we felt like we were paying for a lot of things that we weren't using. And when we started looking for another CRM, you say, okay, what do we really need? Like, we want something that stays out of our way, that allows us the flexibility to create what we need to, like the stuff that we want to keep track of and how we want
Hmm.
to manage these accounts and these users and these companies and our subscriptions and the plans, and allows us to market to or communicate with our users in a way that we want to. And so, we started just seeing who are the big players. This is not my first time looking. I did a whole analysis like this when I chose HubSpot, and you know, I got kind of sucked into their starter plan, which I think a lot of people do.
Hmm.
But then, so I started just seeing what's new on the market. I'd been hearing about Adio for a while. They'd been making a lot of noise, and people seem to be really excited about that, and it's working for a lot of other SaaS companies.
Hmm.
Started using AI to see, okay, to fill in the gaps and kind of um, let me know what's new out there. And I would put in obviously my list of requirements, and then I just go through and you know if it made sense, if I got a certain to a certain point with a service, the website looks really good. And I think this is the process for most people. Like what they're advertising on the website, that makes sense. That I think would
Right.
meet our needs. Sign up for a free account, start testing it, really start kind of seeing where the limits are, where the boundaries are. You got to make sure you're on the right plan that you're expecting to be on, and you're not getting access to these features that are going to cost you extra more than you were anticipating to pay.
Right.
Look at the pricing model. So, it really came down to a lot of different factors, and spreadsheet helped for that, and to keep track of it all, and do the comparison. And at the time, we thought we were going to be moving into Adio, and so yeah.
So, did your engineers sort of weigh in on this? I mean, do you guys have a pretty tight knit engineering team, I know. So, and I mean, obviously, you're part of that engineering team. But I was wondering if some of your engineers who helped build your current system, if they sort of helped make the decision, or if they weighed in on any of the back end implications of any of this.
Probably not as much as they should have. I should have brought them into the process a little bit more, but they were already super busy with what they were working on, and
No,
then this
yeah,
is
that
more of
makes sense.
a marketing and sales function, and we had different plans for. I'd love to go into like what we ended up going with, but we were kind of developing a way to not really need as many developer resources to get this up and running and keep it in sync with our database. And so that really alleviated a lot of the burden, the engineering burden that would have been placed on them. Um, and so, but from a technical perspective, if there's stuff where we would want to kind of extend even more, start tapping into the API of the system. I felt like because I'm also involved in the engineering side of things, that I was probably able to answer the business questions that we would have had for them. And so yeah, short answer is no. We didn't
Yeah.
really involve them as much as we should have.
So I wanted to ask you about a fear that I think a lot of people have about replatforming, and something that I run into with my clients a lot is, I always try and work within like kind of the way you guys did, where you try and, mend it, don't end it. And then when you come to sort of an impasse and you can't move past it, then it's time to move to something else. So I know a lot of folks that look at replatforming have a fear of sort of revenue impact and sort of the onboarding, offboarding process. So I wondered if you could talk a little bit about how, you know, do you anticipate any sort of like revenue impact, positive or negative from this? Hopefully, you're obviously hoping that the long term will be positive, right? But like, are you anticipating any sort of like lull or gap or anything like that that you're going to have to contend with? And then sort of, what's your like process for making sure you have a smooth transition here?
Yeah, maybe, there's a little bit, where there's going to be less communicate. There's going to be, a few new accounts that fall through the cracks in making the transition. But for the most part, I think it's going to be positive. The biggest cost was time. It's not money. It's just, or like lost opportunity. It's just the time that we put into moving, like kind of peeling ourselves away from HubSpot and then moving over to a new system. But I think, we hit so many walls with HubSpot that we've known for a while that it's not a question of if but when. And we've been really wanting to kind of overhaul our marketing strategy and our marketing efforts and button things down a lot and or button them up. And so, it's like, okay, do we invest this time into HubSpot or do we just kind of bite the bullet, cut the cord, and move over to something else? And we decided to go with the latter because I'm trying to think of like one reason, but it's just we didn't think that the there would be that much of a negative impact. Like we just kind of said, okay, we're going to commit this quarter to doing this
Hmm.
and get it over with, and then the rest we're going to be kind of smooth sailing after that. And took a little bit longer than a quarter, but all things said, it's pretty smooth. We're not 100% live and off of HubSpot yet, but we're just about there.
Okay, cool. So we've talked a lot about, what went into your decision to leave HubSpot and sort of what you were looking for when you left. Can you talk a little bit about what you ended up settling on? I think you mentioned that you are going with no CRM at all and sort of what are you replacing with and sort of, you know, how do you see that working better for you guys?
Yeah. So I don't know if I mentioned this at the beginning or if you mentioned it, but we're a SaaS application, document automation SaaS application, and so our because we're product led growth and self serve model, meaning it's expected that the users will guide themselves through the platform. Um, we took a look at like we kind of took a step back and said, okay, as we were trying to implement ADIO, and which is probably a little bit late in the process, but
Hmm.
we kind of found ourselves asking because ADIO doesn't have a built-in uh, email communication uh, module to it, right? So like mass or automated email communications that you want to do, they point you towards this service called like their recommended service is Customer IO. And so we started looking into Customer IO, and we met with them, and they're like, "Yeah, we're not a replacement for a CRM, but this is what we do." And as I started getting more into it and trying to set up the integration with Customer IO and setting up the integration with ADIO, I was looking at it like, what the heck are we doing with like ADIO is just becoming almost like a copy of our database, and for what purpose? Like nothing's coming at, it's just becoming like a an archive of
Mm.
what's going on, and we didn't need that. And so we had a few conversations internally, and we said, let's be honest here. Do we, we might need a CRM in the future, but I don't think we need one right now. And so we decided to say no to the CRM, which is very weird for me because I come from a place, my previous job was at a kitchen remodeling company, my family's business, and they're all in on HubSpot, and they very much account based marketing, if you will, or
Hmm.
B2C, and using the heck out of opportunities and their deals. And so it's very weird to kind of go no CRM, but I think this is going to work for us because all we really need is the communication portion of it, and Customer IO does that really well, and then some. So if we want, we can send in-app notifications. That's another thing that we're looking for. We can send transactional emails, which is what we were doing with SendGrid, and we were trying to create this like custom internal system for doing that. for building those emails, maintaining them. But Customer IO, I got to give them credit. They have a beautiful template designer
Mhm.
transactional emails and dynamic emails. It's super nice. We're taking a lot of inspiration from that for our new template designer. So, and then also I mentioned earlier that taking the burden off of development, the way that we were able to do that was by implementing PostHog. And they're like a analytics slash data pipeline tool and a lot of other things. But it's a really awesome platform and very super affordable. And so what we've been doing is we just push all of our events from our application into PostHog, and then we can kind of broadcast those out to the other systems that we work with. So they cut our application integrates very tightly with PostHog,
Mhm.
and that's where we push all of the events to. And then from there, PostHog is going to be pushing that out to Customer IO, and then Customer IO will do its own thing, and it's super powerful with its workflows and with its segmenting, like lists in HubSpot, and has a bunch of other features.
Customer IO, where you're seeing the lists and segmenting. Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of people think about the automation integration component, with HubSpot. And you mentioned that it was running four systems for you in one place. But what you're describing here is sort of a decentralized system or centralized, I guess, around more of a database structure. And, that's kind of a popular trend right now. I think we're seeing, both HubSpot and Salesforce have lost a significant number of customers, a significant number of they're, obviously they're still huge in the market, but both of their stock prices have gone down significantly. And you're seeing even some enterprise customers move away from these bigger CRMs to sort of build something more custom. So, can you talk about the database at the center of this? So you mentioned, I mean, you guys have a database for all of your customers now, and you're sort of that's the for all of this, and you're pulling out of that through PostHog to sort of process and then into Customer IO to do more of the marketing automation side?
Yeah. So, rather than we have our application database, which is MongoDB, and
Okay.
that's what stores all of our accounts, our users,
Mhm.
templates, documents, everything that is part of the application. But then you have to make a decision. Do you want to kind of all of these platforms that you need, right, for like the sales and marketing side of things or the revenue operation side of things?
Mhm.
Do you want to build out custom integrations with all of those tools? Or do you want to kind of delegate that to something else? And that's what we're using PostHog for. So we make sure that we have a tight integration. All of the events that happen in our, or the important events that we want to be aware of, get tracked in PostHog. And then from PostHog, we get analytics out of it. And then also on top of that, we can connect to any other type of application and then, push that data out to that application as we need it. So PostHub's connected to Customer IO. It's connected to Slack. We're getting Slack notifications out of there. It's basically
Mhm.
now become almost our hub, not to be,
Mm.
for lack of a better word, but
Yeah.
that is our true hub. And it's much easier to get data in and out of PostHog than to try to use, it's not like a CRM or a CMS that, I mean, HubSpot was originally built as a marketing platform, but it doesn't quite function in this way. And we're also, I think I just touched on it, but we're using HubSpot Postdoc now for all of our analytics. So that's including the in-app analytics that are happening, so our product analytics and also our marketing analytics. So the
Mhm.
analytics that, the website analytics, everything that you get from HubSpot, we're now doing with Postdoc at a fraction of the price and with more capabilities. It's not a CRM. That's not what it's designed to do, but it will integrate seamlessly with whatever CRM you plan to use. They have pre-made integrations, and then also you can build your own integrations and run your data pipelines through PostHog. And it's for us, it's been an amazing tool. And we also have logging, so and error tracking. So we have you know, so whenever there's issues in our application, all that information is also in PostHog, and we can associate it with the users that it happened to and the accounts that it happened to, and the same thing with the error tracking. And we have recordings of the screens, and we can see all the information that surrounds those errors that are happening. That's just one piece of it, but for us, it is much more closely aligned with our needs.
Yeah. So whenever I'm building a system like this and sort of trying to combine different things into a workflow, I'm always cognizant of who's going to be using it on the other ends. It sounds like this is, the setup at least is more code intensive. There's not, as much no code involved here.
Mhm.
Will the utilization of this platform be, I mean, will you be able to use marketers that are not as tech savvy in the future if you were to, hire someone on, or you were to have someone sort of run your marketing for you? Would they be able to move through this system? And sort of how have you like set that up so that they can sort of use it?
Yeah, absolutely. Because the development side of the work is just on the integration between our application and Posthog. Once it's
Mm,
in Posthog, now it is kind of no code to an extent. You can extend that, or like you can write code in Posthog and have it running in Posthog if you need to. But the bulk of the development work has already been done in making sure our application is integrated with Posthog. And from there, marketers or whoever else needs access to that information can hook into those events through the Postdoc UI and do what and send that data where it needs to go if it's not already set up that way,
mhm,
or do some like take some kind of action as a result of that, or run reports. Now the whole team has access to real data.
mm,
We don't have to run like MongoDB queries or use Atlas to have these charts built out.
right.
We can get all that information out of Postdoc. So really, it's empowered them more than anything.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, it's a really a best of breed strategy where, I'm sure if you were to add different applications to your stack, that would probably be easier to do. You're not beholden to, HubSpot just adding it, or, messaging them and saying, "Hey, can you add this feature?" Something like that. I know we've all done that with HubSpot in the past. So that's an interesting wrinkle to this. So, I've avoided asking this for this long, but it is like the hypiest thing out there right now. So I want to ask about the AI of it all. So I'm sure
Mhm.
when you were doing vendor comparisons and looking into different things and making this decision, AI had to weigh on that for you guys. You know, what would you say is AI's role within a system like this? Do you think that these tools should be, playing with it and examining it? And do you think it can fit into a CRM type workflow? Or, you know, what have you seen with AI that, did that weigh into this decision for you guys at all? Anything like that? I'm just curious as to how you
Yeah,
saw that.
no, it's a good question. The short, honest answer is not really. We might be kind of the exception here, but where we're going to be getting our analytics and our data is going to be from Posthog, and they have kind of all the tools necessary for that. They even have tools for if you have your own LLMs and you want to run analytics on that and
Right.
have numbers on it. So it's there when we need it. We just haven't gotten to that point yet. We're still kind of just wrapping up that. This has been kind of something that the post hog integration has been something that's been happening for maybe like the last 6 months.
Hmm.
And yeah, I mean, we haven't really considered much in the way of AI, but I'm sure it's going to come in. It's going to come in at some point. Um, just probably helping us to make better sense of the numbers and the analytics that
Hmm.
Postdoc has. But from the CRM perspective, not really. Maybe we might do some custom messaging with AI in the future, or figure like use it to better A/B test. But that would be more in customer IO, and customer IO is not a CRM, but it's yeah, we haven't gotten that far yet.
So I know a lot of companies in our space are sort of looking to bring AI into their companies more. Have you guys integrated any of that into your workflow? Are your engineers using Cursor, for example, or something along those lines? I mean, how have you sort of brought it into your day to day as far as your company's concerned?
Yeah. So this is, kind of a recent development, but we've been using Cursor for a while. We've been using all the different models and
Mhm.
trying to keep tabs on which one's doing best, at the time, and kind of just jumping around in different ones. And we'll use it here and there. But we recently brought on an engineer, and he's very much like up to date on what's going on in the industry. And we used to use Claude back in the day, and then we switched over to a few different ones. And he's like, you got to check out Opus 4.6, like it's something else. And so I started using it, Claude Code, and I was genuinely impressed. Like it is insane. So we've now switched over to that. He's also using Codex, and we have AI running like Copilot in GitHub for
Hmm.
code reviews and stuff like that. So, it's a good addition. It's not really replacing too much of the work that we're doing, but it's definitely, nice to have it there. It saves us a ton of time in doing like more tedious, mundane things, or to kind of
Hmm.
flesh ideas out with. And ask high level architectural questions. But yeah, I mean, I would say that we use it most in the engineering team. We
Mhm.
also use it to help us, craft emails and to come up with strategies for our for the marketing team and to help with churn and to help with conversion rates. And it's we use different models for that, and Gemini has been really good from my experience. And yeah, so it's kind of sprinkled there, but we're mostly still using it as a chatbot. The new engineer that we just hired, he's very much into like setting up MCPs and making the most out of that. And so we're probably going to be using those more with post hoc to, like I said, make better sense of the data, or to yeah, that was kind of the only thing that we're
Yeah,
working
yeah,
on
no,
with it
that
at the
makes
moment.
sense.
Yeah,
We looked into Post Hog as to be featured on the Funnel Vision newsletter, and definitely going to be doing work with it soon because I was checking out some of their AI tools as well, and it's really interesting what you can do and how they handle integration with other tools there. Yeah, definitely one that we should keep an eye on. So
yeah. Big shout
cool.
out to post
Really,
hoc.
really interesting. Yeah, big shout out to Post Hog. So we'll definitely post some links to the different tools that Josh has mentioned here so that you guys can go and check them out. But I wanted to ask one final question that I'm going to start to ask to all of our interview subjects with this series. So tell us one workflow automation, integration, or tool that you can't live without.
Like for my personal work or for the
Yeah,
company?
for the company, I guess.
For the company. Yeah, I mean, I've been kind of tooting their horn this whole time, but Post Hog's been amazing. I really can't say enough good things about their support. Is super responsive. Like they'll proactively reach out to you if they see an error or something. And we're not a big customer for them. We're not really. I didn't think that we were on their map at all. But and then I reported a bug once with something, and it was ended up being our fault. But they got right back to us, and just like you could see that they're really moving very quickly, and they understand kind of their user base and what they're looking for. Um, and if it wasn't Postdoc, I would say Claude Code as Opus 4.6 has been just really like super impressive. Just next level. You can see where they've really raised the bar, and you know, I find myself trusting it for coding stuff, for engineering development stuff, way more than I've trusted any other model. So those, I guess, would be my top two.
Awesome. Well, hey, Josh, thanks again for doing this. I really appreciate your time and for your candor about your strategy for bringing this new system to life. And we'll definitely check in the future and see how it's going. But really appreciate you taking the time today.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. It's great talking with you, and happy to hop on another call and give you an update.
Excellent. Talk soon. Thanks.
All right, thanks, Sean.